you doing? I'm your host, John Fiore. I appeared in 2 seasons of The Sopranos, the controversial saga of a New Jersey crime family. That's New Jersey across the river. Okay, I've heard all those Jersey jokes, and some of them are true. For many people, their only image of the Garden State was what they saw outside their car windows as they traveled up and down the New Jersey Turnpike. It wasn't a pretty picture unless you're into oil refineries and toxic waste. But in 1999, something happened. Was it some new governmental project? A statewide beautification program? No. It was the premiere of The Sopranos on HBO.
6 seasons and 86 episodes later, it's become a television icon.
Suddenly, gritty locations in aging industrial cities like Elizabeth, Newark, and Patterson became the backdrop for the Sopranos story.
And more followed, like North Caldwell, Morris Plains, Little Falls, Lodi, Verona.
Many of these locations have become household names like the Bada Bing in Pizza Land. Tourists from all over the world want to visit the Soprano family home.
And Holston's, where the last scene was shot. The now famous locations were shown inhabited by colorful characters like Phil, Ralphie, Tony B, Johnny Sack, Carmine, Vito, Richie, Paulie Walnuts, Big Pussy, Uncle Junior, Bobby Bacala, and the rest of Tony Soprano's crew.
And it's really something. I did about a dozen episodes as Gigi Sestone, a capo on Tony's crew. I even whacked a few guys, but you know what? I'll always be remembered for what happened to me in episode 34. I died. No hail of bullets, not even one neat shot behind the head. I died literally in the head. Yeah, I had to go out on the toilet, but when you gotta go, you gotta go. But I sure love being part of The Sopranos, a true cultural phenomenon. So by popular demand, I'm gonna take you on an exclusive tour of the actual locations where The Sopranos are shot, both with a camera and a gun.
Bang, 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 and he shot him.
Along the way, you'll meet some of the cast and crew.
The weapon of choice? A baseball bat.
Hear real inside stories.
Everybody wants to know what happened to the Russian.
See behind-the-scenes video footage. And a whole lot more.
I'm gonna give up what happens in the 5th season.
You could always expect bloopers.
Birdman, hello?
Yeah, get homework. From work. Stupid fuck, excuse me.
It's got that and all kind of crazy stuff.
I'm very unlike Tony Soprano. I'm a sweet gentleman.
Hey, driver, we gotta get down to the Lincoln Tunnel. this is it. Some say the most famous house in TV history. Tony's house. What a magnificent home. It really impressed the cast as well.
When Richie drives up to Tony Soprano's house, and the first thing he sees is that very impressive circular driveway and that monolith of a house, it's a pretty nifty layout. He has many mixed emotions about Tony's success and about his position in that world.
That house is used for the exteriors only now. But at the pilot, they used the interiors, and when they went and built the set, they had to recapture what was inside. They had to rebuild what was inside.
I'm gonna take you and my guma, Marie, on an exclusive tour of the actual Soprano house.
The actual house, which is used for Tony Soprano and Carmela Soprano's home, is, I think it's in North Caldwell. And they were real accommodating, real nice, and people, you know, that's usually the most mellow location. Although the people who live there sometimes have cocktail parties while we're shooting, so there's a lot of friends, a lot of friends of the family hanging around, and it's like a real Soprano barbecue.
Let's go in and meet the owners. Hey.
Hi.
Patty. Hey, thanks.
Hi,
John, how are you?
Hi, Marie. Come on in.
Hi, Marie, how are you?
Nice to meet
Good to
Thanks
see
for
you.
having us in today. Beautiful home.
Thank you very
How long
much.
have you lived here?
14 years.
14 years. A beautiful street. I understand you're in construction.
I'm a builder.
Did you build all these homes?
Yes, I did.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let me ask you this. There's the White House, right, for famous houses. There's Graceland. And now there's the Soprano house. I mean, let's face it, one of the most famous houses in America. Really, at this point, in the world now. How did your house become the Soprano house? Has anybody ever asked you that question?
Only about 10,000 times, John.
I bet. It's 10,001.
It's one of the questions that I'm asked most of the time, and basically it's just by chance. Scouts came out, and one of the homes they looked at was ours, and they decided that it had the amenities that they wanted and needed for the series, and the rest is history. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, they go on the grand tour. You mind if you and I head out to the pool?
That'd be great.
All right. That's great.
Oh, Patty, what a gorgeous dining room.
Would you like to see where Carmela kept her AK-47 in the show?
Oh, my goodness.
Double martini. I'm not playing like this. Take it out like that. Okay. That's all right by you. Jeez, Louise, Camilla, what are you out of your mind?
Would you like to see some more?
I would love to.
This is the master bedroom. Tony woke up here one morning. Not literally, but. And yes, this is the master bath. That's a small TV sitting room.
Oh, it's lovely because it goes right outside, too.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. My compliments.
Thank
It's
you.
gorgeous.
This is the great room.
The bar. Now I know why they call it a great room.
Well, they actually used this room. They patterned the Silver Cup studio set after this room. They changed a few things. It was really a thrill to walk in the room and see everything almost alike.
One of the most amazing things was Tony Soprano's home, because I had worked there, and when I went back to Silver Cup for the first time and was looking at the set, I couldn't believe how they were able to duplicate it to such a degree. It was just perfect. It really is amazing what the set designers, what they can do. They can move walls in, move them out. It really is, they say the magic of film is very true.
It is another lovely area.
Thanks.
Let's continue. This is beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Well, this is actually the kitchen that they used in the pilot. They also duplicated this at Silver Cup Studio. We had an opportunity to go out there and take a look at it, and it was just a thrill to see the kitchen so identical. They may have changed the glass front on the refrigerator, but it is the kitchen that they did use in the pilot and that they spent most of their time filming in, actually. Spent a lot of time in here.
Action.
My father was ducks.
Girls, you gotta have more than just cranberry juice for breakfast, all right? You need brain food. Happy birthday, handsome. Mwah. 13.
Yeah, he doesn't act it.
Male, female, duck, made at home.
Ah,
Disgusting.
Okay.
When the pilot aired, what was your reaction to it?
I couldn't focus on anything.
It was surreal.
Yes.
You want to take a look upstairs now?
Would you like to see some more?
Boy, I'll tell you, this is so big, this house.
At the Soprano house, on location, we're shooting exteriors, you know, so we're in the backyard and all that stuff. It's usually really hot when we're there, or it's really cold and we're pretending that it's hot and we're freezing in our little tiny mini skirts and stuff. But when we're shooting in the house, all of the windows, you know, when you look out the fake windows, there's all fake patios, fake pool, fake trees. I mean, you can never tell on film, but it's pretty wild to look at, because when you look out the window, the backyard is this close to the window, and that's the whole backyard. There's no depth, it's all photos. It's pretty cool. Oh, when I actually brought Charlie to the Soprano house, my little bulldog, she took a giant crap on their lawn. I remember that. And I felt like I was never gonna be allowed to bring her again. They were like, it's okay, your production is just gonna pay for it.
I'll let you know, Vic, many important Soprano plot elements took place by this pool, including ducks taking up residence in the pilot episode. What was that all about?
Yeah, that was a funny experience that day when they came with the duck handlers and put ducks in the pool, and James was in there feeding them bread. It was a lot of fun.
Well, you know, it's one thing to talk about ducks in the pool, but I hate to bring it up, but Soprano fans remember when Patsy Parisi donated something else to that pool.
John, don't remind me.
I'm sorry, Vic, but I have to remind you about the time that Danny Grimaldi, who plays Patsy Parisi, decided to relieve himself right here in this pool.
The wonderful technical people put that peeing sequence together. There was a hose rigged up with a tube that ran up my leg with a valve. And the funny thing was to try to get the arc of the stream so that the camera could pick it up and still play drunk, create the drunkenness, and have the waving stream so that the camera could pick it up.
So Dan says, it's gonna look real. I said, yeah, it's gonna look real. So everybody's ready, all right, action. Dan gets into his character. I'm on the ground just under the camera with this rig as he's walking. And I'm supposed to let a little bit of water go to make it look like he's trickling and then, so it looks real. Instead, I love Dan. I go full throttle and he shoots clear across the pool and doesn't even make it in. And he said it's the most power he's ever had.
The first time we went to the set, which was to be used as Tony Soprano's house, it was a little odd because you had a beautiful house in a reclusive area, and there was a lot of excitement, and we didn't want to break anything, and we were afraid to go into certain rooms, and and then you had the pool and everything in the backyard. There was a friendly atmosphere, and there was a lot of improvisation going on because it was a barbecue scene. And it's the first time the cast really got together on the pilot like an ensemble. We were all hanging around waiting to shoot, and I think the funniest thing that happened was, for me as an actor, was everybody was trying to get camera time. And if you look at the barbecue scene, you can see that, like everybody they knew where the camera was, and they wanted to get seen, because it was the pilot. Everybody was improvising, so me, I just shut up. I didn't say anything. I just kept quiet. But Tony Sirico got enough, he said enough. He likes to get his camera time in. Tony Sirico and I have a relationship. It's not just an acting relationship, it's a relationship between close friends. And I think what happened is that David Chase saw that and combined the characters of Paulie Walnuts and Big Pussy and made these guys friends on the show because we already had bonded in real life. I hope in the future we'll work together again, and maybe I'll have the opportunity to whack him because he's always whacking me.
This is another room that they set up to use in the show, but they actually didn't film in here. But this is the window that Meadow climbed in after being out late one night.
Hold it! Meadow, what are you doing?
Come on, Marie, I'll show you another room they used in the series. This is the family room.
Wow.
This is the one that they did use for the pilot.
Oh, okay.
Action during these laser discs are incredible.
Yeah, Tony watches Godfather 2 all the time.
How does Tony rank Goodfellas? What do you have, raccoons?
Somebody's doing a window.
What?
I was supposed to stay here, right?
Cut.
Vic, one of the most asked questions is just what's in that refrigerator Tony's always going into. I wonder if we can have a look in yours.
Sure, but I don't think it's the same as what's in Tony's.
Oh, wait a second, before we do, why don't we see how Jeff Marchetti, a set dresser on The Sopranos, answered that very same question?
So it's a real refrigerator, it really works. And a lot of our real lunches are in there. If I'm dying for a drink, I put it in there throughout the day. I go back and forth because it's right on set. We don't have to walk to craft service. And the gabagool obviously is in there. And there's always gabagool in it. Good stuff.
Hey, just in time for the grand opening, Patty.
Well, like every good Italian household, we have 4 or 5 sticks of pepperoni, provolone, homemade wine. John, would you like a pepperoni for the road?
Thanks, Patty. I've got my own. Thank you.
Okay, next
listen,
time.
You guys have been fantastic. I gotta tell you. Thanks for letting us into your homes.
Our pleasure.
We're gonna go. Vic, thank you.
Hey, you're
Patty,
very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
It's been great. Thanks a lot.
This is where, in season 3, Gloria worked as a sales representative and Tony came to see her.
This area was converted to our customer waiting room for the show. This is where Gloria introduces herself to Carmela and then offers her a ride home.
Gloria Fella. Carmela Soprano, you sure you don't mind? Give me a minute, I'll get a demo.
All the people that were here were absolutely marvelous. They took great care of us. They offered us breakfast, lunch. They offered to help move cars. We must have moved at least 60 cars one day. They must have came with at least a dozen trucks, lights, every possible equipment you could imagine. It was very exciting. We got to put headsets on and watch right behind them, filming everything. I mean, they were all pretty wonderful. It was almost like having a whole movie studio right here.
How you doing? I'm Johnny Pacelli. I'm a manager at Rascals Comedy Club in West Orange, New Jersey. And The Sopranos filmed here in the 3rd season. Meadow and Jackie Aprio Jr. were playing pool inside. They had an argument, she ran outside, and she crashed his car on the side of the building. Come on, let me show you where it is. The preparation for filming started about 9 o'clock in the morning and it went to 2 o'clock at night. You wouldn't believe the equipment they used here. They had scaffolding, they had monitors, they had screens, cameras. People were running around going crazy. To just do a little scene like this, you wouldn't believe the time that it took.
That night outside Rascals was rough. I mean, Rascals is a comedy club, but it wasn't a very funny night. We had stunts going, and you never see the actual car crash, but they had put a car on a hill like this for the car crash with Meadow inside, and this was a steep hill. It was all rigged so the car was safe and all that, but it rained. By the time we got to that section of the shooting, it had rained, and now this hill was like a mudslide. So here comes Jason sliding down this hill. At this point, it's what used to be safe is now a little dicey, but that was a really great scene.
Oh, you guys all right? This is fine. Totally fine. When we got hurt, we were tired. Fuck the car, hold control.
Pussy Bumpin' Sarah's sideline was auto body shops. That was like his front. You wreck him, I'll fix him.
So after the big car chase and Phil Leotardo's crashed his car, Tony Soprano agrees to have the car fixed. And where do we end up but Cleveland Auto Body Shop, Pussy's old shop.
Big Pussy was, by that time, swimming with the fishes, and Phil went in to see the car, and he didn't like what he saw.
In the episode, we learned that through a deal brokered by Johnny Sack, Tony would pay to fix Phil's Lincoln that he caused to smash into a Boar's Head truck. Tony sends Phil to the Cleveland Auto Body at Harrison, New Jersey. It's run by Big Pussy's widow, Angie, played by Tony Kalem, and Pussy's brother, Duke, played by Phil LaRocca. I was accompanied by Joe Marazzo, playing my henchman, Joey Peeps.
Phil is very particular about how his car should be fixed and even demands that a dent on the back of the car be fixed, even though the accident happened to the front of the car.
So he said it was unacceptable and to get it fixed. So they came back with Peeps, and they were checking the car out, and the car, Phil got in and said it was off kilter. And
Phil Leotardo's milking this accident for all he can get. Goes on to complain about how the paint is different, it's too dull, it's not like the old paint. Then he starts adjusting the seat, saying the seat's not the same like it used to be. Well, Angie Bumpin' Sarah, of course, is trying to not lose their shirt on this deal, so Tony sends his cousin, Tony Blundetto, over there to make things right and to kind of be a go-between.
They made Steve Buscemi's character, who was Tony B., get in the car, and he said, this seems 100% right to me, and Phil said, how could it be good if it's a rye? But the best line is, you can try it out until San Junard. Tony B was looking at Peeps, and they were making eye contact, shaking their heads. So Phil says to Peeps, he says, what's the matter, Joe? You got an eye problem? You look like Stevie Wonder, your fucking eyes rolling around in your head.
And that was a funny scene. But now listen, every word of dialogue is written and not improvised in this show.
Michael Imperioli wrote that episode, so he was at the auto body shop the whole time.
And Michael and I have done many, many movies together, and people don't realize it, but the writers are always on set for every episode of The Sopranos. They were on set, so if you had to change a word, you had to go to the writer, and the writer would look, see what you wanted to do, and he'd have to call headquarters and ask the boss. In the episode Marco Polo, my character is wearing a neck brace, and it's not very comfortable wearing a neck brace, and you have to do a scene. That's the second time I had to wear a neck brace. The first time was in a movie called Debt Collector, and I got shot in the neck. The first movie I ever did. The neck brace was made by a doctor by the name of Conti, Dr. Dan Conti.
And my character in the episodes was Faustino Doc Santoro. I made an appearance in Sopranos home movies, and I was coming back from Florida out of retirement to challenge Phil Leotardo's position. The next episode I was in was Stage 5, and Geraldo Rivera had a crime show of which he mentioned the likely candidates to take over Johnny Saxon's spot. And myself, Doc Santoro, and Jerry were named as the most likely candidates. As a result, I had Jerry whacked, and then arranged a meeting with Phil to discuss my elevation. The next episode I was in was Remember When, and at that episode, Phil Leotardo and I had dinner, and I sort of indirectly challenged him for what he was doing for me. I was really not satisfied. So I pleasured myself with reaching over and taking some of the food out of his plate, which I think is indirectly a direct insult to another boss. And as a result, I got a look from Phil Leotardo that was really not very enjoyable. And from there, we went on to the next scene, which was disastrous for myself. And I'm sorry that I wanted to eat the sausage in his plate. And the preparation for the scene is very intense. The first thing they did is teach me how to fall. Then they made a mask of my face to make a prosthesis for the eye, which was shot out by the 3 shooters during the scene. Yeah, I had a lot of my patients call me who saw this episode all over the country and said, "Why would you ever take the food out of his plate and cause your demise?" Thinking that this was a real part of life. I said, "Do you think this is only an episode? It's only a movie." But people get very into the enjoyment of these episodes and become part of it. And they want to express their opinion, try to help you with any situation you happen to be in.
At this time, we'd like to get board for first-class passengers only. Olivia Soprano.
Hey, speaking of more movie magic, how do you turn a racetrack into an airport? Well, leave it to the Sopranos, because that's exactly what they did to film one of the rare scenes featuring Nancy Marchand that didn't take place in either Livia's house, Tony's house, or the nursing home. In this scene from episode 26, Livia and her sister are about to board a plane with tickets provided by Tony, but you see, there's a little problem. The tickets, yeah, they were illegally obtained after Tony's crew took control of the Ramsey Outdoor Store to collect its owner's gambling debt. Now, trying to shoot this scene at a real New York airport would have been very difficult, if not impossible. So with the help of a crew of almost 100 production people, the Sopranos transformed part of the Meadowlands racetrack into a full-fledged airport. And as you can see, yeah, it looks very convincing.
One of the longest shoots that we did in season 5 was at least 3 days at a construction site.
In Clifton, New Jersey. This was supposedly the Esplanade project, but it was a real job site. I mean, it was actually a new school that was being built there.
Most people in the background were actually the construction workers. They were sort of like on our payroll for the day, so they were doing the actual work, some of the welding or actual types of work, and being the extras. There was no shortage of lawn chairs at that site. All the guys sat around while the rest of the construction workers were actually doing the work. These guys had the no-show, no-work jobs and all that kind of stuff. So they were sitting around sunbathing and everything else.
Sitting around in lawn chairs was myself as Gene, Max Casella as Benny Fazio, Dan Grimaldi as Patsy Parisi, Joe Ganascoli as Vito Spaffatore, and Jeff Marchetti as Petey, and of course, Carl Capitato as Little Paulie. Will Janowitz, Meadows' boyfriend, Finn, was off to the sidelines.
Tony arranged to get Finn, Meadows' boyfriend, a job with this construction company. So here's a long tracking shot that we did with Finn, working on the construction site, and all the other guys just hanging out on their lawn chairs.
The big scene involved myself as Gene in a ball-busting session with Little Paulie that escalated.
Well, that one scene where the guys are going back and forth breaking balls, and one of lose like a sort of like a gay remark to my guy Gene, and he doesn't take it too well.
It looks like I'm holding a homeless bottle of Snapple. But in the hands of Eugene Pontecorvo, it becomes a deadly weapon. Oh, yeah. Bam. Gave it to him right over the head, and proceeded to beat the shit out of him, kick him after death. And the guys stopped me from doing that. I was lucky enough to get it done in one take. The Snapple bottle was made out of cane sugar. Pete Picosi, the stunt coordinator, we worked quite extensively to make sure that where I hit Little Paulie, Carl Capitato, he wouldn't be hurt. But there was a stunt double for Carl. Well, Pete's brother, as a matter of fact. They both had the same makeup, of course, but, you know, usually in film, they pick a guy who has the same physique who doubles in for the main actor, the principal actor. And he really looked like he had the wig on, but he really looked like Little Paulie. Of course, then it led to me kicking Little Paulie. Of course, Carl was on the ground initially, and then he was replaced by Pete's brother, the stunt coordinator's brother.
And then cutting in, the coverage then is on the ground, and the stunt double might do some of the body shots, take some of the kicks, and then cut to the face, and then you'll slip the real actor in there on the ground for the tight coverage of the face and the stuff.
And that's a little bit of the inside stuff, and then they kind of shot that in pieces.
That's pretty standard practice of using the body doubles, but the cuts are so fast that you don't always know if it's a stunt double or the actor. Sometimes you think it's a stunt double and it's not.
When we shot at the construction site in Clifton, that was a very big episode for me.
At the construction site, we did a scene that takes place at dawn, and Finn, Meadows' boyfriend, pulls up in his car to start the workday, and he sees a security guard sitting in his car, kind of laying back, and then we see Joe Ganascoli's head pop up in the window.
So that scene where I'm giving the security guard a blowjob, that all came about because I had suggested it to one of the writers from a book I was reading called Murder Machine. And it's a notorious Brooklyn mob. One of the characters in it was gay. So I thought it would be very interesting, something you don't see, and of course, I didn't have a problem doing it. You know, it's one of those scenes that'll go down in television history.
Well, we don't have the scene in the cab of the truck, but here's the scene at the construction site with Big Vito and the security guard that never made it into the show. The security guard was played by Joe Moretti.
He and Joe Ganascoli had a really good time with this particular storyline. At one point, they're supposed to have serious conversation in the background, and they started hamming it up for the camera. So I think they had a good time with it. You have to make a joke about this. You have to, you know.
You know, I always felt I was on the wrong end of that blowjob, but what are you gonna do?
We followed that up with Finn and Vito outside the Portisand, a little uncomfortable, you know, it's not really a confrontation, but a little uncomfortable meeting outside of the Portisand that sets up the are you gonna keep this quiet or not kind of scenario for Finn.
Finn sees what goes on, he gets terrified of you know, what's happening.
Joe took a hell of a shot, Joe Ganascoli. It was his idea. He brought the idea to Chase.
And I don't know why he did that, but he did it. And it was a shock within the whole cast of everybody, because to try to understand the professionalism of that kind of a move to your career, I mean, it is a big move to your career.
I was watching it with about 20 guys and never said a word and knew that was coming out when it aired. And they almost, they all fell off their chairs when it aired. And I think the whole country was talking after that.
You cannot be a homosexual and be in the mob.
My feelings was to be, when people say, how could you be bisexual? I always said, at least I'm not a rat, because with a bisexual, you know where you stand. They knew I was a stand-up guy and they knew I was an earner, but the rat, you couldn't trust them.
Well, sometimes we're at a location, we might do something like a car driving scene with some of the characters. And when actors are in a scene that is supposed to be driving a car, almost all the time it's a car hooked up to a tow truck. It's actually it's called a camera truck. It's a tow rig truck that the actors don't have to drive. So that there's a safety issue, of course, when you're trying to pay attention to driving and do a scene. So that eliminates the danger for the actors. And then you're able to control the speed of the vehicle and also rig lights and cameras safely off of this vehicle.
Here is an elaborate staging set up for the short night scene used in the 6th season episode, Cold Stones. Carmela is in Paris and Tony has given a dancer from the Bing a ride home. She ends up parked in Tony's truck giving him oral sex. Well, a blowjob, if you will. Sounds simple, but it isn't. It's a lot of work and time. During the setting up of lights, camera, equipment, wiring, screens, and so forth, stand-ins are almost always used. As shown in this footage, when the scene is ready to be filmed, the stand-ins are traded for the actual actors. Sorry to say, this is the end of the footage we have.
Car rig scenes usually take a lot of time. You would think that it would be quick, just two people sitting in a car, but it actually takes a lot of time. There's a lot of rigging that goes on. Cameras have to be rigged sometimes off of the side of the car, sometimes on the hood. Often they're doing 2 or 3 camera setups with one at once. So all this rigging has to happen on these cars and safely for the car too, so the car isn't damaged at all. Because sometimes you're using very nice vehicles. Tony Sopranos is a very nice car, you don't want to have any scratches, and the grips are rigging metal pipes all around this car, so you can imagine that there's ample opportunity for damage. And that's why everybody takes their time and rigs everything properly so everything is safe. And on the back of the truck, there are monitors rigged for the director, so the director, script supervisor, ADs, all these people right on the back of this truck, and it's like a big parade float going down the street. All these people watching the monitors in the back, the actors doing the scene, and really trying to remember to pretend to drive so that it looks real. Well, sometimes we're at a location, we might do something like a car driving scene right outside the pork store, but it's not supposed to be outside the pork store, it's just supposed to be somewhere in New Jersey. And there's a scene that we did with Agent Robin and Adriana talking in the car.
Actually, shooting in a car for me is not that much of a pain in the ass. What is a pain is that Adriana is constantly crying. So to have to pass the same spot again on the same tear that falls off her face, it's like, that's where it gets crazy. But as far as being in the car is kind of easy because the camera's not that intrusive. I mean, I know it looks absolutely crazy all around you, all the machines and all the trucks and stuff, but I kind of just block it all out. I just don't like when they put a sheet over the camera because then you can't see out the window. In the scene, I'm supposed to be looking out the window or crying, and I'm looking at this white sheet, and it's so not real that I want to cry. I cry a lot. I'm gonna cry now. Karen Young, who plays Agent Robin, is mean to Adriana. But I mean, she's the only person I work with now. I barely ever work with Michael, so, you know, it's kind of rough doing all those FBI scenes. It's so kind of, I'm tired of crying. Tired of FBI scenes, but I love her. She's great, and I have a great time with her. She's a great actress. That's my girl. That's my home girl.
Sometimes when you see a simple scene in an episode, there is a lot more going on behind the camera than you would think. For instance, we have a scene with Adriana and the FBI agent walking through a park. Doesn't sound like such a big deal, but the crew laid probably about 100 feet of dolly track, and everybody in the park is an extra who has a particular timing to walk and a certain line that they're going to cross on. Even the ducks in the pond were extras. And they are weighed down with little weights so they don't fly away, and they're positioned exactly for the camera. So this tiny little simple scene is actually very involved. Of course, it's a fantasy world when you make a film, so the extras are seen feeding the ducks, even though there's a sign posted right there that says, feeding of waterfowl prohibited. Very bad. It's always about the ducks.
Now this is the bridge at the Great Falls in Paterson, New Jersey, used in episode number 6, Pax Soprano. Now this is the episode where Uncle Junior takes over as the head of the family. But Uncle Junior's management style was, well, a little different from Tony.
The episode was number 6 for a season called Pax Soprano. Tony Soprano comes to my supposed restaurant in Manhattan. I'm a New York capo. Talks to me about driving to New Jersey and sitting down and brokering a deal with Hesh and Uncle Junior, because Uncle Junior was being a little stubborn and he was starting to feel his oats. And Tony Soprano says, yeah, but it's got to look like it's your idea, blah, blah, blah. You know, he'll listen to you. So that's what we did.
Uncle Junior finds out that a guy named Rusty Irish has been selling drugs to his tailor's grandson. So Uncle Junior arranges to have Rusty thrown off of, guess what? This very bridge. Speaking of Rusty, should I say the late Rusty, the producers used fake bodies to throw over the falls, but things didn't end up as planned. As a matter of fact, Deputy Police Chief Jim Whitting is here to tell us what happened.
Well, this particular location, with the dummies being thrown off the falls, we received a lot of calls from pedestrians and people that were in the neighborhood, thought it was actually a live person being thrown off the falls. What happened after the third try, the one dummy got stuck down in the chasm between the rocks and wasn't able to be retrieved for a couple of days. So the phone calls kept coming in that someone was thrown off the bridge laying at the foot of the falls. After 2 days, the fire department was able to get a lifeboat in there and retrieve the dummy and actually bring it back to one of the firehouses. As a result of it, the city naturally billed the production company for the cost of whatever it was to, which was a couple $1,000s to retrieve this dummy.
That bridge isn't too safe. I hope they get some money from Sopranos and rebuild the bridge. When we shot the pilot, we went over to the falls, and that's a wobbly bridge. Yeah, they threw Rusty Irish over the falls. Yeah. Maybe they threw Big Pussy over the falls, too. Who knows where the hell Pussy ended up.
Here's another important Paterson, New Jersey location. As you can see, there's always an audience and a camera when the Sopranos come to town, and the cast never fails to interact with the fans. It all happened right here at the Fair Street Market. This is where Tony called for a tension-filled sit-down between Paulie and Ralphie during the 3rd season and left us with the impression that Paulie was ready to jump over to Johnny Sack's New York family. Paterson is a Sopranos shooting bonanza. This city's unique architecture offers a tremendous variety of locations, all within a very short distance. Now, we've just pulled onto Lee Place, and within this one block, 3 separate scenes from different seasons were filmed. Let me show you. Our first Lee Street location takes place right here. This is where in season 3, Meadow has followed Jackie Jr. because she suspects he was cheating on her. She catches him with another girl and confronts him. Moving right along, look down the block over there. That's where Paulie Walnuts, played by Tony Sirico, and Christopher loaded the Russian into the trunk of Paulie's 97 Caddy in season 3's Pine Barrens episode.
That wasn't my dead body. It's supposed to be Patterson, right? and Patterson and Paul Wallen supposed to carry my body with the Christopher, but I was not there. I had no idea when they did it. I've seen it on the screen, but it wasn't me. The first scene in the show was shot exactly in the forest. It was opposite. It's supposed to be first in the Silver Cup. It was set over there. The set for the apartment was like 3 walls. And the makeup people, they were great. The whole crew and cast, Tony Sirica. As soon as he dropped the remote control, the exact lines were, "You wanna fuck here, cocksucker." That was in the script. So, and after that line, of course, he was assaulted as an Italian guy. He took the bottle from the table and he hit me in the head.
My name is Jerry DiToronto, and this is the car that was used in this season's Sopranos, driven by Paulie Walnuts. The car was really featured in the Pine Barrens episode with the Russian in the back. That's how most people identify with it. It was in about 3 or 4 times, but they were just short clips. Whenever Paulie Walnuts was sitting in the car, it happened to be this one. It's funny because I have a store on Bloomfield Avenue, and a lot of people, I don't know how they find out about it, but at least a few times a week, people come in here and they want to see the car, and sometimes they take pictures of it. Some other people come in and they put sunglasses on and they smoke a cigar like they're supposed to be a mobster or something, and they take pictures with the car. It's pretty funny.
When I was in the trunk in the car, and the same day was shooting with Michael Imperioli and Tommy Sirica, extremely professional people. Kind of a twist there between Paulie was told by the Tony, was he killed 15 or 16 Czechoslovakian, and it was heard like it was an interior decorator. Come on, it was not bad phone connection, it was good script written. The second day of the shooting in the Pine Barrens, it was like a dream. On the snow, nobody knows what was under the snow. It was stones, woods, everything slippery. You can break a leg or a neck. You can even die there.
Early in season 5, there's a scene at the Bada Bing, actually, where the guys are standing around talking about the Russian. I think fans have been wanting to know what happened to the Russian. And the funny thing about the scene is that the guys are standing around talking about it, not knowing what happened to him either, which is a funny way of handling it because they're in the dark as much as the fans are. And they don't even know where the Russian is or if he survived or anything. And the scene ends with an altercation between Paulie Walnuts and Christopher, arguing over who's at fault for what happened with the Russian. And then it's just dropped, and we never really find out what happened to the Russian at all.
Everybody wants to know what happened to the Russian. Even the Russian wants to know what happened to the Russian. Only David Chase knows what happened to the Russian.
We're not finished yet. See that pizza place on the corner? That's our 3rd location on this block. That's Gio's Pizza, but in season 2, they used it as Beansy's Pizza. It's where we first meet Richie Aprile, played by David Proval. Now, fresh from prison, Richie takes over his old territory and demands protection money from Beansy, who refuses to pay.
To make his point, the hot-headed Aprile runs him over with his car. The auto attitude adjustment was filmed right here.
Oh, transmission problems in those SUVs. Tremendous. Richie never intended. No, he couldn't get it out of reverse. He was just gonna, go. I don't know. What happened was that Richie had to show power. He had to come back and show power. And if he allowed Beansy to behave in the way he behaved, he wasn't going to go anywhere.
This is Lou Costello Park in Patterson, the site of some important meetings in The Sopranos. The first was when Tony met with Paulie Walnuts to tell him Furio was joining Tony's crew.
I was walking for some reason across the street. I was going to make an entrance into a car. I look up and I see one of my great heroes, Lou Costello. If this is an omen for the experience I'm about to have on this show, well then I think I'm headed to something very exciting. And I think it's Lou holding a bat. He was a great baseball player and basketball player. People don't know that about Lou Costello. He's a wonderful athlete and a New Jersey born. And I think I screamed. I think I just went, ah!
We shot a couple of times in Paterson, New Jersey, at the Lou Costello Park, and as a young boy growing up, Abbott and Costello were absolutely very, very important to me in terms of timing, in terms of learning how to do comedy.
Hey, Abbott, I understand they made you the manager of this here Colgate team.
Why not?
So you're the manager?
I'm the manager.
Well, you know, I'd like to know some of the guys' names on the team, so when I meet them on the street or in the ballpark, I'll be able to say hello to those people.
Why, sure, I'll introduce you to the boys. They give them funny names, though, Lou.
Oh, I know they give those ball players awful funny names.
Let's see, on the team we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
You the manager?
Yes.
You know the guy's names?
I should.
Well, then tell me the guy's names.
That's his name.
That's whose name?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for?
Lou Costello was born right here in Paterson, New Jersey, and he donated this land to the city while he was still alive. And here's a real mob-related connection. Both Bud Abbott and Lou Costello were big-time gamblers. It's been rumored that Costello's one-year-old son, who drowned in the family swimming pool in 1943, wasn't an accident at all, but mob retaliation because of large gambling debts owed by Costello. True or not true, it certainly scared a lot of guys into paying their gambling debts.
It was a thrill to work at that place. Jimmy and I had a couple of scenes there, and it was cold. It was wintertime. I remember we were all bundled up, and we come around the corner, and we talked. We had to talk about Vito. He knew that Phil wanted to kill Vito because Vito was a homosexual, and he was married to Phil's cousin, and didn't like the disgrace of the family because Phil was a real diehard guy, and Tony was keeping him away from. He didn't want to kill Vito because Vito was earning a lot of money for the family. And we shot that in Paterson at the Lou Costello Monument. We did it a few times. It was fun there, but cold.
Hey, look, Paterson Police Chief Jim Whitty turned out for the filming. He's right off to the side. This is yet another Paterson location. Right across the way from Lou Costello Park is the Mason Galicia restaurant, now closed due to a fire. This restaurant was used in episode 16, known as Toodle Effin' Ooh. It's where Lorraine Bracco's character, Dr. Melfi, runs into Tony and his cronies, and Tony is forced to pawn her off as an old girlfriend.
We were in a restaurant location in Paterson, New Jersey, and it was deep summer. I mean, deep. And it was an episode called Toodly Doo, when Lorraine Bracco's out with her girlfriends having dinner, and I'm having dinner with Tony Soprano, Paulie Walnut, Silvio, and Pussy.
That episode was the only time I really had the chance to work with the wonderful Lorraine Bracco on The Sopranos, yeah. Yeah, we were talking about blowjob lips and stuff like that, yeah.
Being that it was summer, they had to shut the air conditioning down, seal the entire restaurant off. So it was murder. It was really murder. Bad, really bad.
We had an Australian director, and you have a certain time limit to shoot an episode, 9 days, and you got to get everything done and then move on and move on. And this guy thought he was shooting, Ben-Hur. He was covering every shot possible, and we thought we were never going to get out of that restaurant. And we were there for a long day. It was a very long day. So occasionally on a break, we would take a walk across the street and admire Lou Costello's statue, or walk around and take pictures with the local cops and everything. That was a long day. I don't think that director ever came back and shot another episode.
Driver, pull up here where you can, all right? While we're in Paterson, I want to show you one more location. Actually, it's 21st Ave, and you should have been here the day they filmed a scene for Season 3, Episode 38 of The Sopranos. Although the action takes place at night, the cast and crew arrived early in the day. By the time the sun set and the temperature dropped, the crew was still hard at work putting the finishing touches on both the inside and outside of the location. Many fans crowded the streets to get a glimpse at some of the guys who are always very accommodating. Well, we're standing in front of Cafe Italia, but in the scenes you just saw, it was called Basile Electric. The producers changed it to that name. Oh yeah, but first let me tell you about the backstory. You see, Jackie Jr., played by Jason Serbone, and his buddy Dino Sorelli, played by Andrew Davoli, have been hearing all these stories about Tony and Jackie Sr.'s criminal exploits as young men. So Jackie Jr. and Dino decided to duplicate one of those stunts by robbing an illegal card game, which was held right here in this place. Well, they picked the wrong game because that night, both Christopher and Furio were sitting in on the game, and the robbery goes very wrong. One player was killed, and Furio shot in the leg. And I want to bring on Sal, the owner.
John, how are you? How you doing, John? How you doing? John, good. Let me show you the table where actually the game took place.
Right here, huh?
Yes.
Hey, what are these, bullet holes?
Not really, not really.
I play little cards myself. I'm looking for a little action, Sal, I'll tell you the truth.
Actually, we do have a game back here, my man. So let me show you what's going on here.
Hey,
And this is it.
Frank Pantangeli.
Yeah.
Here we are. Look at this. Oh,
all right, guys.
Maybe I can weasel in on this game. I might sit down. I got a few. Mind if I sit in? The whole gang is here. Hey, deal me in. Yeah, I got some money.
Great, look at that.
What, are you kidding me? All right. The scenes we're going to see now show when Jackie Jr. and Dino run from the game and down a side alley onto 21st Ave. Now, of course, although called Basile Electric, this is actually Cafe Italia, the building we're in now, just to the right of the screen. Each part of every scene has to be blocked and rehearsed before it's shot. In the next sequence, Jackie Jr. commandeers a passing car. Anytime a moving vehicle is used, a lot of care has to be taken to ensure the safety of the actors, not to mention the crew and even the cameras.
Whoa! Oh, shit. Oh my God, look at that. Did he hit him? There goes the steady cam.
It's a bad thing, it's just not everything. Well, it's just gonna fuck up. I don't know if he's got a big camera.
He saw it here first.
One night in Patterson, we were doing the scene where the guys rob the card game and they run outside. And one of the shots was involving a Steadicam, which is worn by the camera operator on a sort of floating arm. And he was to run backwards quite a ways, about a half a block. We went to do a take and the Steadicam operator is running backwards, and out of the corner of my eye, I see him fall. And you're just like shocked, and you're still, booming the scene, wondering what, are we continuing here? And he's on the ground. And of course, they yell cut. Everybody comes out to make sure the guy is okay, and I look down and there are pieces of camera and Steadicam harness things all over the street. It's just one of those things that happens in film production where you're just like, oh, this is the worst thing that could happen.
In the final shots of this scene, Jackie Jr. speeds by Dino, literally leaving him holding the bag. Of course, in this case, it's the bag of money just stolen from the card game. Finally, Christopher and Albert Barisi catch up with Dino. He pleads for mercy, but to no avail. Mob justice is administered on the spot. Notice how a crew member adds light flashes off camera in synchronization with the firing of the guns. The actual sound of the guns are added in post-production. Now, after hours of blocking and rehearsal and plenty of downtime because of the Steadicam accident, here's a look at the completed sequence.
the stuff at the party box, which is right next to Satin Dolls, that was a pretty tough day because I'm trying to do a scene with my friend Louis Lombardi and Mike Memphis. And that was the first time I worked with this Elvis impersonator. And like, he's a little bizarre. He's constantly in character, even when you're not shooting. You know, he talks like Elvis. He wears Elvis underwear, and you know, the guy thinks he's Elvis Presley. So that was pretty tough. So it was a great pleasure when I was able to hit him over the head with a hammer.
If I can get my heart to stop pounding, let me tell you about this place. We're at Manolo's in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Now, although this is a wonderful Spanish restaurant, it's the original location of Artie Bucco's Italian restaurant, Vesuvio. In The Sopranos, Artie, played by John Ventimiglia, is one of Tony's oldest friends. Now, although Artie is not really mobbed up, but his restaurant served as a popular hangout for Tony's crew. In the pilot episode, Tony wanted to protect his friend Artie, so he'd blow the place up. Hey, so tell us, what was it like to see your restaurant, you know, blown up?
It was absolutely horrible.
I bet.
We had to be evacuated out into the pouring rain for 3 or 4 hours. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning by the time they blew us up. Flames shot about 100, 150 feet in the air. They changed it a lot, and they built a facade out front across the fence.
Yeah?
And they matched the lace curtains, the color of the brick, the stucco, everything perfectly. And that's the part that they blew up.
Did they succeed on the first attempt, or?
No.
No? What happened?
I think planes from Newark Airport flew over.
Like this one.
So they couldn't have any noise, so they stopped, and then they did it again.
Wow, that's amazing. Having a restaurant in The Sopranos isn't all that it's cracked up to be, as Carol knows. Now, you take the restaurant used as Artie's new Vesuvio. It's located on Bloomfield Avenue in Caldwell, New Jersey. Now, the interior of the restaurant is a set at Silver Cup Studio in Queens, but they still need the exterior for certain scenes, like the final episode of season 3. The owner told us that a crew of 130 people shot outside his restaurant from 6 a.m. to midnight. Now, of course, he expected to see a lot of his place in the show, but when that episode finally aired, there was less than 30 seconds on the screen.
With, you know, The Sopranos becoming so big and becoming such a big hit that it was unpredicted, do you see it going further and staying around for many years, or how do you see it?
One more year.
That's it?
Yeah.
Has your life changed since starting the role of Tony Soprano on Sopranos? Have you seen yourself falling into the role at all?
No, I don't.
How has it been working on a series that's become so big, and have you found anything interesting about it, different?
Well, you get to develop the character a little bit more.
Now, I know that you have a son. Is it hard being involved with the family, or no? Okay. Anything else you can think of? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Very nice meeting you.
Sometimes you're given rain, and sometimes you make rain. A lot of times the script will call for there to be rain. So we have to make the rain if it's not going to appear naturally. So there was a big scene with Adriana meeting with the feds, and the script called for a rainy night. So even though it was a beautiful summer night in Fairfield, New Jersey, we had to make rain. And it was just the area around the car, so it's kind of funny to watch. Walking towards the set, everything is a beautiful summer night, except right where the camera equipment is just a downpour.
Shooting with real rain versus shooting with fake rain, I prefer the fake rain.
They're big giant trucks that basically are used for what they call wet downs. You just wet down the street, and then if you have to make rain, you hook up a truck to rain towers, which are 20, 30 foot high, and they make rain and just pour it down on where you're shooting.
The real rain, with all the hair makeup we go through and all that hair, it's the biggest nightmare ever, especially when you're on location. You have to go from place to place with no umbrella, the humidity, the hair falling down. So the fake rain, turn it on the second week. I mean, we shot a scene, me and Karen Young, in the FBI car, and that was in the rain. But luckily we were in the car, so that was okay.
When Drea shows up in the morning, she's more like a rocker girl, like a rock and roll girl, maybe like a biker type girl. She's not the glamorous type, you know, she's hot. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And then she gets all glammed up to play Adriana.
I hate running back and forth to the makeup trailer, so we'll do it on set, because locations, a lot of times base camp is far away from the actual location. But Adriana has a lot of hair, and it takes a good 2 hours to put it in, and it takes 15 minutes for a touch-up on it every time we need a touch-up. Unless she has a nice updo that day. When we're shooting, I always prefer the scenes where Adriana's got a black eye, or when she's, you know, been crying all day, or she's been puking. I like that stuff better. I don't like when I have to look pretty, because then the expectation is way too high. I prefer looking like crap. And I have an easier time acting, and I don't have to worry about hair, makeup, wardrobe, any of that stuff. I mean, I need all those things to make Adriana who she is. But at the end of the day, I prefer acting with none of it.
If you're a Sopranos fan, then you know that there are two locations you can count on seeing a lot: funeral homes and restaurants.
Speaking of eating, Tony Lip, who plays Carmine, meets an untimely death in the middle of a nice country club lunch and ends up on the ground with his mouth full of egg salad. Not a very nice way to go.
I had gotten there late and I hadn't had any breakfast. So when they gave me the egg salad, it tasted real good. And I just kept eating it. And that's what they used for my death scene.
Carmine's funeral was supposed to take place in Brooklyn, but we shot it actually right down the street from the pork store in Kearney. And that's a good opportunity for fans to see a lot of the cast members because everybody comes to the funeral. One of the things about a location like that funeral home is that it's on a main street, and it just so happened that I think there's a school nearby or something, so there was just a lot of activity and a lot of crowds outside the funeral home. And we're all inside shooting. But when the cast members go out for a break, you know, they're just right out on the sidewalks talking with the fans, and their trailer might be way down the street, and they're gonna take maybe a 2-3 block walk down the street. Normally, they'll just stop and, you know, chat with the fans a little bit.
As a matter of fact, I had an all-star funeral, which many people don't have. And most of the cast attended. Of course, Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini, Mike Imperiale, Vincent Caratola, Joe Santos, Tony Sirico. Stevie Van Zandt, who plays Silvio, was also at the funeral. Ray Abruzio, who plays Little Carmine, was there with his wife. I think this is the first time that fans saw my daughter-in-law. Ginny Sacks and Frankie Vincent also showed up at my funeral.
And everybody was there. I mean, the entire cast, I think, was there paying their respects to this, because he was a big boss who died. It was a point made that Phil would go to the funeral not dressed like everybody else, just out of total irreverence. And he went with the turtleneck sweater. And everybody had the suit and tie on. And that's what introduced Phil.
And him coming on the show, I think it's great. I know Frankie Vincent maybe like 30 years.
Tony's a very dear friend of mine, and he had to stay in the coffin all day.
When I got into the coffin, I was very relaxed. And as I was laying there, I dozed off. By the time they got set up with the lighting and the camera, I had dozed off. As I was dozing off, Vinnie Vella grabbed me by my colognes, okay, which woke me up. And we had a few laughs between us. And then he let it go, and I went back to sleep.
He's kind of lucky in a way because very few people get to attend their own funeral, let alone fall asleep in their own coffin while they're shooting the scene. It's a little weird because you're shooting the scene and then you'll see him outside talking with fans, and they don't know what's going on. Everybody's in a suit, so anybody could be the dead person on Sopranos. You know, any one of these guys hanging out outside could be the person in the coffin, but the fans don't know.
They kept asking, who's the person that died? We stood up like champs. No one told them who died.
Don't give me that fucking look either.
Even the coffin was a secret. They brought their own coffin. They didn't trust anyone to know who died. I think I had a great turnout for my funeral. And we had a great time. As a matter of fact, it was more like a wedding than a funeral. What I'm gonna miss most is all the guys that are on the show, the fun that we had, the laughs that we have. Tony Sirico's a fun guy. He'll have you laughing all day long. He's a great guy. And Vince Coratolo, who plays Johnny Sacks, is also a great guy. As a matter of fact, he helped me a lot. When I was sick on the show, he helped me to get through some of the scenes. I like Vince a lot. When Vince is playing sax, he's playing sax. He's playing the real character. He's a typical mobster that you would see in the street. He looks it, and he plays him to the T. Working with James Gandolfini was one of the easiest jobs I've ever had. He's a piece of cake. He's easy to get along with. There's no intimidation of any kind. There's no ego bullshit. You know, it was just great. I could work with him all day long. He's a beautiful guy. He signs autographs for everyone or anyone who asks him. He'll go out into the crowd himself and sign autographs and greet the people and say hello to them.
Jimmy Gandolfini really went nuts with the fans, waiting outside at the funeral parlor.
Hello, Mom.
Posing for pictures, chatting with the crowd, talking on fans' cell phones, and signing autographs. He even honored a fan's special request to sign her boobs. Some guys have all the luck. Nobody ever asked me to do that.
I'm from Vegas. You gotta do it for me.
God bless you. Do whatever you want.
Thank you. Thank you. I hate to bother you.
I'm going to tell you something that I'm not supposed to tell you. There'll be a scene where Tony Soprano, Jimmy Gandolfini, and I are in bed. And that's all I'm going to tell you.
The dream sequences, pretty much anything can happen. And one of the weirdest things we saw as a crew in the dream sequence was later on in the season, Tony Lip makes a surprise appearance as Carmine. Tony Soprano's in bed. We see him in bed with a prostitute prior to this, and he wakes up, and the camera goes over to the right, and there is Tony Lip as Carmine in bed with Tony Soprano. I don't know how they felt about it, but it looked pretty funny. Frank Vincent, who plays Phil Leotardo, has a lot of action in season 5. And we shot a scene underneath, unfortunately, a train trestle. And that was a big action scene that had to be interrupted several times.
This was when we were shooting in Newark under the train trestle on McCarter Highway at night.
When we started to shoot the scene, it was earlier in the night, so there were more trains more frequently. But as the night wore on, I mean, we were there until, I think, 4 in the morning.
They always wet streets, no matter what, because the wet street in film photography gives you reflection. That's why whenever you see a movie, you see the streets wet. Otherwise, you don't see the street. So anyways.
Phil Leotardo follows the guy in his car and bumps the car to like a fake accident. And they know who each other is. It's not by accident, it's by design.
In a move to avenge the killing of Joey Peeps ordered by Angelo Garape, Phil and his brother Billy, played by Chris Calovino, decide to whack Angelo. He was played by longtime terrific character actor Joe Santos. To shoot this thing, Joe's a nice guy, that actor. He's been around a long, long time. Did a lot of television, and this was his swan song here, where he has to die. We did quite a lot of takes when Billy strangles Angelo and Phil helps to get him into the trunk of the car. We had a real problem with that car because there was that Continental kit in the back and the bumper extended quite far. And in order to get Angelo into the trunk, we had to lay him down and pick him up and put him in the trunk. And we rehearsed it good, and we slowed it down, walked through the steps, and the kid was good, and he grabbed him, he put him in, and we had a few laughs because this was what happened to Billy Batts. So that was a tribute to Billy Batts' scene, and we put him in the plastic. Phil says to him, "You couldn't fucking retire?" Bang, 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 and he shot him. So Joe only came on the show for a few episodes. And then when he closed the car was all scratched, and he told his brother, he said, "Look at this shit. You know the work I just had here? Give me the fucking keys."
In season 5, we shot a big night scene with Dominic Chianese playing Uncle Junior, doing his Vinny the Chin routine, wandering out onto a bridge. And that was actually the Clay Street Bridge in Newark. And that was a huge lighting setup. I mean, normally a TV show wouldn't go through this much work to shoot a scene. But Sopranos is shot like a motion picture. It's shot like a feature film. So they had lights everywhere. It wasn't just the bridge lit up, but they were lighting from barges below the bridge. They had generators, separate generators and lights far down the road so that you would see everything in the background that was brightly lit was lit by our electricians and our gaffer. It was a huge setup. We shot on that bridge and then we went to an abandoned lot across from the bridge. And Uncle Junior kind of wanders around and finds a mattress and is living like a homeless person at that point. And a police cruiser pulls up and they realize who this is and they can't believe it. You know, the cops are like, "Do you know who this is?" They're like, "Yeah, right. You're just some homeless guy." Pretty funny scene.
My defense of Uncle Junior is this emulation of Vincent the Chin Gigante, who walked around the streets of Greenwich Village in a bathrobe and slippers pretending he was nuts. In The Sopranos, the same sort of thing happens to Uncle Junior, but he is actually slipping. It is a defense, but there are tinges of reality to his dementia. I think that the character is being affected by his age. And personally, I think it adds a great deal of dimension to Dominic Chianese's interpretation of the character. It's very full, very rich, and it lets him go in lots of different directions. And he's having a great time. I'm having a great time with him.
There's a scene shot, you know, the episode where Dominic Chianese tries to kill Tony. He shoots him. There's also a scene that we shot that we never used, where Phil shoots Dominic through the window. Because at the last minute, shooting one of the episodes, they said, "Okay, Frank, we're going to stay a little later today. Why? We got something else for you to do." And it was confidential. Didn't know that we were doing this today. They changed my clothes. We went in. They had the set. We had a fake window with the blinds, and inside you could see inside Dominic's house. And I had to come in and get out. And they never used it. They would do shit like that.
David Chase has become a star in his own right. I mean, the fans love the show, and they love him for creating the show. So when he shows up, he's not just an anonymous person behind the scenes that no one knows. I mean, he's definitely the creator of the show, and the fans want to meet him.
David Chase is probably the most talented human being in our industry, I think. He took a show and he took a lot of risks and he stuck to his own vision, and he's the man.
David Chase is in charge of the show, and when he makes an appearance on the set, I think you can feel the nervousness
If he shows up, we kind of think there might be a problem.
He's very hands-on as far as how the show should be run.
Yeah, when David Chase shows up sometimes in locations, which he rarely does, we're always like, dun, 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 dun.
Well, David Chase did come on the set one day with unfortunate news for both Dre and her fans. Adriana was getting whacked in the 5th season episode called Long-Term Parking. After meeting with Chase curbside, as shown in this rare location footage, Dre, in bloody makeup from a car crash with Tony, made her way into the hospital to shoot her next scene with James Gandolfini. After 5 seasons on The Sopranos, the character of Adriana Lacerva was to be no more.
And I'm really not happy about it. David Chase hired me for one line, and that one line turned into 5 seasons. And supposedly I got the part because of the way I said the word ow. The part was developed, and I got real lucky. I think a lot of that I owe to Michael and his support and the way he acted with me. Now whenever I have to go work on another set with another male lead, I want to kill myself because he just made it so easy for me to kind of blend into this cast and everything. I mean, people really thought we were a couple when they first saw us on TV. Everyone thought that. I think that's part of the reason why David kept me on the show.
In season 5, we shot a very sweet scene out in Belleville, New Jersey. Adriana and Christopher are tasting wedding cakes to choose one for the wedding. It's kind of ironic considering how Adriana ends up in season 5.
I don't like going on other sets. It's kind of difficult for me. I mean, being on a Sopranos set, it's like you're not hanging out with actors. And when you're on a real set, like a Hollywood set, all of a sudden you're surrounded by actors who just love themselves. Sopranos, you're surrounded by actors who love acting, you know.
Well, the great thing about shooting in New Jersey and New York is you can find locations that will fit the bill for various storylines. And Booton stood in for New Hampshire in the episode where Joe Ganascoli's character takes off and ends up in bed and breakfast up in New Hampshire.
When I first crashed my car and it was raining, I mean, that was all rain that they set up in, fake machine. It was a rain machine.
It was a hard rain. They made a pouring hard rain for that scene. He was a major focus and he did a lot of hard work that episode.
In Booton, we had this scene where I'm by the waterfall thinking things over. It was very hard negotiating down this rocky terrain. And they built this ramp so I could get down with a banister, and even I was sitting on this rock, that, if I had slipped, I could went, right down into the water. It's a little dangerous getting up and down and in and out. But it was interesting. It was a very beautiful little waterfall, and it was a quaint little town, very antique town. We didn't have to set anything up. All the antique stores were there. That's when I went antiquing. That's when I first go into this diner. That's when I first see my guy, Johnny Cakes. Right then and there, I think it was love. Wherever I go, people always, inevitably, I'll hear, "Hey, Johnny Cakes, how's Johnny Cakes?" And, "I love you, Johnny Cakes." And Johnny Cakes was played by an actor named John Costello, whom I knew. In New Hampshire, and their specialty in that area is Johnny Cakes, which is like pancakes, but it's made with white cornmeal. You serve it with butter and syrup, and it's a big dish there. So I ate many a Johnny Cake during the filming of that.
Here we are in the lovely Jersey City, New Jersey. Robert Eiler, who plays AJ, is seen here returning from the set accompanied by Bianca, one of his girlfriends in the show. First introduced in the episode Keisha, she is played by Dania Ramirez. They are seen here generously accommodating some fans. In the episode Keisha, there's a big scene involving many of the guys from both the New York and New Jersey crews. It took place at Little Carmine's house, a home that was actually in Atlantic Beach, New York. Carmine acted as a broker between the crews, members of which included Tony, Silvio, Phil, Jerry, and Butchie. It was quite a feast for Soprano fans who came out to meet the actors and get photos and autographs at breaks during filming. Especially cooperative was Stevie Van Zandt, who went out of his way to accommodate the fans and certainly enjoyed doing it. He's always been known as a great guy. Here he is with more fans while shooting in the streets of Jersey. Here we see rare footage of Steve Shrippa walking to the set for the filming of the episode Mo and Joe. He is in bloody makeup due to his prior altercation with some gang members after collecting a debt in Newark. Now here's a rare shot of a bruised up James Gandolfini on his way to the set. He doesn't want to be photographed with the makeup for fear of giving away any plot lines. The makeup is the result of the Monopoly game fight with Bobby Bacala in the episode called Soprano Home Movies. Tony will be joined at the bar seen here with Steve Shrippa. They'll meet up with two French Canadians to do some business and arrange a hit. The tavern will double as a bar in upstate New York. That's the Garden State Plaza in Paramus, New Jersey, which has also been used a lot as a location on The Sopranos.
Vito comes back to New York from New Hampshire and wants to get back in the good graces of Tony Soprano and rejoin the crew. They meet at Garden State Plaza, a little cafe. We shot that at the mall, and as big a TV show as Sopranos was, you can't shut down the whole mall. We did go there early in the morning on a weekday, so it was a little less crowded, but once word got out that we were shooting there, the crowd started to build, of course. That's real location shooting. You're shooting in a mall, in a working mall. It's open, the stores are open. You have some control over things, but you really are in the middle of an actual location, living and breathing daily life while you're making your little imaginary life. Vito didn't know how things were back in New York. He had been away for a while. He didn't know how Tony Soprano was going to take this fig leaf of an offer of coming back and working for him again. At that point, Vito is an unknowable. He's an unknown. Can you trust him? This is the guy that disappeared for a while. Anytime a mobster disappears, the first assumption is that they've gone to the feds or they've gone to somebody. And Vito doesn't know what's going on in Tony's mind, and that's why they meet in a safe location, meet in the middle of a mall. What's the guy gonna do to you in the middle of the mall? Of course, Vito did bring his brother as backup because he wasn't sure how Tony would react.
My brother in that was someone from the crew, Vinny Orofino, that played my brother. I guess David Chase saw him and said, you know, I'm gonna use you as Joe's brother. That was a good scene. It was a little funny.
Vito's character left, and that's something you don't do when you're in the mafia. You don't leave. There's, you know, Tony Soprano said there are two ways getting out of this: in jail or dead. But you don't go to New Hampshire and find a gay lover. That's really not option 3.
Well, you know, there's a lot of people that don't like homosexuals in this world.
In the episode Cold Stones in season 6 is where Vito meets his fate, which was dead.
Here we are at the Courtesy Inn Motel. Preparations are underway to film the death scene of Vito Spatafore, played by my good friend, Joe Ganascoli. John Bianchi, who plays Jerry, and Tony Cucci, who plays Fat Dom, arrived on the set early. And there's Joe, Big Vito himself.
We had to kill Vito, and we followed him and found out where he was.
So I meet my demise at the Courtesy Motel in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is still there, and I pass every time, and I always give a glance at the room.
And so from the outside, it looks like a sleazeball motel where you would have maybe an affair. But we ended up there for a very long day of shooting. We had all these rooms on the second floor. So the room that we were shooting in, and then each department had sort of like a room that they could use to stage equipment and things like that, lights and cameras and all this kind of thing. When you're shooting in a location, the small motel room becomes infinitesimally small once you get cameras, actors, crew people, lights in there. It's the classic rats in a small cage scenario. Joe had a stunt double. Anytime there's any sort of stunt being done, there's always a double. There might be a stunt person that they never use for the actual shooting. Sometimes they'll be on standby and the actor will end up doing all the stunts or the fight themselves. The beating of Vito was pretty intense. When we shot that, it was a brutal beating.
So the guys that beat me that night were a couple of Frank Vincent, goons. Fat Dom was one, and Jerry Torchiano. Jerry was called the hairdo because he had really quite the bouffant on him. And the dark humor of Sopranos that Frank Vincent comes out of the closet.
Vito came in the room and they knocked him down. Phil opened the accordion doors and came out of the closet, which is a play on words because Phil wasn't gay, but he came out of the closet to kill a gay guy. And Joe Ganascoli's character, Vito, we assassinated him in that scene.
You know, it's a particularly gruesome way to go. And I remember pleading for my life.
The irony of that situation is that at this time, during that time that we did this shot, this episode, my book just came out, Guy's Guide to Being a Man's Man. One of the publishers, unbeknownst to anybody, was gay. And he was killed in a motel room in Queens, a gay killing. And this came through the news, in the New York News, as a surprise to all of us involved in my book and my publishing. This was previous to the episode that we killed Vito in a motel room, which was exactly the same situation that this publisher died. This is the kind of things that Sopranos and David Chase brought into the series that mirrored real life.
After coming on the show during its first season, Vince Curatolo's character Johnny Sack passed away from cancer while incarcerated. This sixth-season episode was titled Stage 5. Here we see a scene shot for episode 74, featuring Christopher and his new bride Kelly when they went house hunting. The episode 83, which was titled Heidi and Kennedy, Christopher would be gone, suffocated by Tony after surviving a tragic car crash. In episode 85, Bobby Bacala, played by Steve Shrippa, met his death in a model railroading store at the hands of Phil Leotardo's henchmen. There is no limits to Soprano mania. After Bobby Bacala was whacked at the train store in the Blue Comet, the train set that he landed on after getting whacked was later put on display. It was advertised as an attraction at various model railroading shows, complete with splattered blood from the shooting.
The other episode we shot, called The Second Coming, was an episode that was shot supposedly at Phil Leotardo's home in New York. And the irony of that is that it was shot in New Jersey, 4 or 5 blocks from where I used to live in Newark, New Jersey. And it's an old-fashioned stone, beautiful, beautiful home. And little Carmine and Tony come to the door because they wanted to settle some business that we had to take care of. And my guy Butchie says, answers the door, tells him that Phil don't want to see him. And he said, what do you mean? We came all the way over and we made this arrangement and we made a date. He says, he's not going to see you, he doesn't want to see you. You never saw Phil in the whole episode. All you saw was the curtains moving, and you saw like a little outline of Phil. It was fun to shoot that because I wasn't on camera, but you just heard my voice. That was another genius of David Chase. And they start to leave, and from the window upstairs, Phil's screaming down.
That's right, cocksucker. Go back to New Jersey.
He says, that's right, cocksucker. Go back to New Jersey. Meanwhile, we were really in New Jersey.
What are you doing, Phil? That piece of shit, get off my stoop.
And he says to little Carmine from the window, take that piece of shit and get off my stoop. Stoop. I learned that word from Lou Costello.
You can try as hard as you can to block a scene from the public. You can put up screens or try to shoot it in a place where no one will see it, but someone always gets through and somebody always gets pictures or videotape. That day, there was the secrecy around it. That's, again, another major character. The build-up through the season has been that Phil and Tony Soprano are gonna come to blows somehow.
Made in America was the last episode we shot. It was my assassination. And my assassin in the episode was a character's name was Walden Belfiore, played by Frank John Hughes. Belfiore, the assassin, is assisted by Benny Fazio, one of the regulars on the show, a fine actor, Max Casella. And they make their getaway in a black Chrysler 300. In the show, my wife and I were riding in a silver SUV. We had the girl who played my wife, Geraldine, wonderful, wonderful actress. It was her and I in the SUV, and we had our grandchildren in the back seat, and we had two little girls, but there were actually three. They used triplets, and when one got a little cranky, they would move one out and put one in. And David Chase was directing this episode, by the way. And the first take we did from inside the car is when Bill had to turn around and say goodbye to the children. And he said, wave bye-bye to Pop-Up, wave bye-bye to Pop-Up. And we shot that part, and then I get out, and I lean in the doorway, and I talk to my wife. And then my assassin comes up, and I get shot, and I fall down.
If you look beyond the screen, you'll see a mattress where Frank Vincent falls. The shooter, Walden Belfiore, is seen here, firing in front of the camera to provide close-ups to be inserted in post-production.
So Walden Belfiore walks up to Phil Leotardo, shoots him right in the head, point blank, falls to the ground, shoots him again as he's lying on the ground. And they cut to a shot, the camera's looking straight up, low angle, right into the gun in the foreground, and Walden standing above him. It's a very powerful, classic gangster movie type shot.
In the show, my wife goes into a panic. The car is still rolling, and I'm on the ground with my head in the path of the car. And you wonder how that's being done. What they do is they chain the car. They chain it to an object, so the car can only go a certain distance and stop by itself because they push it by hand. And I had to go to the prosthetics 2 weeks before that to have my dummy head made. So in the real actual shooting of it, I had to lay down under the wheel, and the car would be pushed only this far until it touched my face, and then it would cut, and then they would put a dummy in, full dummy, with the head, the actual head that they made for me, and then the car would just to start to go over their head, and they would cut to the reaction of the people who were standing around in the gas station. I think there was some black kids who were looking, and one kid was throwing up, and people were going, "Oh my God!" And that was the final episode of Phil. That's where he got killed, and they must have made about 10 or 12 heads because they rehearsed that scene a lot when I wasn't even there. They were rehearsing that scene.
We tried various things with it. You just see a flash of it in the episode because prosthetic. It doesn't look like what a real head would look like being run over. Not quite sure what that would look like, but it wouldn't be pretty. I think HBO had some limits back then. I think they got rid of those now because they chop heads off all the time now. But back then, I think they had their limits.
As a gift, the prosthetics guys gave me a head, an actual one of the heads that they was finished with my face on it and everything. And I gave it to my daughter, and she puts it in her window for Halloween. So I've become a Halloween star. And that's the demise of Phil Leotardo.
You know, one of the fascinating mysteries of The Sopranos is why in some cases the names and the locations should change, while in others, the real names are used. I guess only David Chase knows why. But here's an example of a real name being used. I'm talking about Holston's Ice Cream Parlor. It's at the end of our tour and the site of the most controversial episode in TV history. Let's get the inside scoop from the owners.
I'd received a phone call from somebody from the Sopranos production asking if we were interested in having a scene shot here. They wanted to send somebody by to take some pictures, to look at the store, and I agreed, and they actually showed up that day. That's how it started. Yeah, the first day that they showed up, I think we had to be here at 5 a.m. and I mean, people just poured in. Trucks, equipment, rigging, lighting. I don't even know half the names of the things that they had here, but it was a little overwhelming the first day, I would say.
The scene was a night shot, so it had to be dark. So what they did is they had these black curtains hanging out in front of the store, and you don't even know what time it is, and it looks like nighttime all day long. And you go outside and there's bright sunlight, and you just it's just weird. Yeah, they had about 80 people working on the set at the time, and it's just like everyone's doing something different. It's kind of like watching ants, like they're all doing something different, but it's for a common cause. So it was interesting to watch.
Yeah, we met David Chase. He actually came for lunch one day, and I think that's how the onion rings started. David Chase liked the onion rings, and that's what they asked for when they were shooting. But he was here the first day. He directed the first day.
David Chase was very involved in everything, every aspect. He was inside the store, outside the store. I know there were a lot of fans outside, trying to catch a glimpse of the actors, actresses. Maybe trying to see what's going to happen. Maybe they can catch a glimpse of, what they're shooting.
James Gandolfini would walk from his trailer, which was parked down the street a little bit. When James would walk up, he would sort of be in character, and the people were calling his name. They were jumping up and down and clapping and showing a lot of enthusiasm. And the same thing with Edie and Robert Eiler, were dropped off in a van, and they would acknowledge the people, but they were working. But the people went crazy. Every time they saw one of the actors, they were just going crazy for him, waving and calling and clapping, and people were there for hours upon hours, never left. When I would step outside the store, and there were customers or friends or people that I knew in the crowd over there, and they'd call to me, "Hey, Chris, how are you?" And I'd go over and talk to somebody, "Can you get me in? I'd like to see what's going on. Can you, AJ and Edie were a little less, they weren't around as much as James was, James actually on the second night of shooting had brought in a whole array of sushi for the crew and everybody around it, and everybody said this was on James, and it was really nice. I mean, he was just out there having sushi and, talking with people.
It would have to be blown up. Where the children? I got in before, so they're shooting that scene.
All right, Jimmy.
Yeah, they never really said to us, "Don't say anything," but we're going to shoot the final episode here, and then we found out. I guess it sort of leaked out, and they were like, "You guys can't say anything about this." It's We came to work the next day, and Channel 7 was here, and Channel 4 was here, and people were calling from all over the country, asking us questions about what happened, and how did we feel about this.
And I'm sure if they really didn't want the word out, they wouldn't have told us in the first place. I think they planted the seed, and I think that's what they wanted. They wanted us to mention it, and they wanted everybody to see the final episode, and they wanted everybody to be shocked at the end.
It was the end of the night, and the shooting had shut down for the day, and things were breaking down, and James Gandolfini walked outside, and there were people there that had been there since 6 o'clock in the morning. There was one particular lady directly across the street, never left her spot. Her husband brought her meals, and she was screaming at him, you know, and I guess during the day he was too much into character, doing whatever he does to shoot, that, you know, he sort of stayed away from everybody. But then it was done, and he walked over there and, you know, took pictures and was signing autographs and you know, intermingling with the people, and people were very appreciative. I mean, you could see they're respectful and you know, just wanted a picture, just wanted to stand next to him. And he did the whole thing. I don't remember the time frame, but he was out there for quite a while, going up and down, talking to people and taking pictures and so forth. I was taken by surprise at the ending. I had no idea. I was watching it at home with my family and some friends, and when it went black, I went running downstairs to another TV, thinking mine had broken upstairs or something was wrong, and then the credits started rolling, and I was like, wow, you know. Because when they filmed here, they film in such fragmented pieces, and, you know, they're filming this and they're filming that, and I'm trying to think, how are they going to put Meadow at the table with them? And, you know, it just never happened. I never put it together, not having any experience in this. You know, it was surprising to me.
Yes, she does come in the door, and she walked into the store, and she sat at the counter. So basically, they just got her walking in the door. They obviously cut it before she made it in. All you heard was the bell of the door, and I think that was it. That was done on the reshoots, the night of the reshoots, because it started to rain that night. So when they did the reshoots, when they closed it down for a day and a half, you know, 3 weeks later, that's when Meadow's scene was shot.
And Gandolfini and Edie Falco were not here then. It was just Meadow that day.
We couldn't figure out why there had to be such a production with her parking the car. Why it took her 3 times to get into the spot. That's another thing that nobody knows. I thought they were telling her to do that. She was instructed to do it 3 times. I heard them say that. It also had drizzled that night too, a little bit, and they had people out there with towels drying off the cars, so it didn't look like it was raining. David Chase pays attention to every detail. They reshoot things sometimes 10, 20, 30 times. I don't see the difference. I thought they were just wasting their time, but obviously he knows what he's doing.
You know, but we still get that question. They still want to know where the booth is, and do you know what happened? People were calling up, they wanted to reserve the booth on a Friday night or a Saturday night. They were coming in with friends. We want to sit in the Soprano booth. Can we reserve it? Of course, we have a line of people, you know, for the first couple of days afterwards, you know, and everybody wanted the booth. And I'll never forget that, you know, I was trying to seat people and keep things going. And, you know, we were all working crazy hours, and I had one gentleman, you know, I'd say probably in his 20s. He came in with his friends, and, you know, had to wait in line, and you know, can I get the Soprano booth? And I said, well, we'll have to see. I don't know. You know, there's people sitting at it right now, and, you know, he, you know, shaking my hand, thank you, and in his hand is a bill. He's going to give me a tip to get him the booth, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, you know, where did this come from? You know.
After the scene was aired, there were a lot of people coming to our store, news reporters, everyday people, fans. A lot of people came here they want to sit in the booth. They wanted to find an answer. They wanted closure, and they did not get it here.
The man! Tony, vieni qua! Behind the police lines, right?
How you doing, Mr. Gandolfini?
How you doing?
How are you? Mr. Shy
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Thank you so much.
There you go. Hello, how are you? Thank you. Bye.
Oh, who knew he was coming today? Oh, you blame me? You're blaming me now?
Yes, get on the side. Or you can leave. I'm not going to tell you that.
By the rules.
Can you sign this cup?
Forget about it.
Peace on my chest.
Oh my cup. Sign my cup.
Natasha.
Yeah.
Just keep on snapping. Just talk
Nice to see you.
Should I flash him?
You just hold that down.
You've got to come down. All right. Hey guys, take a couple steps back. Push the line back. Whoa, get back. Get back, guys. Stretch the line, folks. Everybody take a couple steps back, please. Take a deep breath. I'm holding you. Back up. Let's go. Everybody back up, please.
Thanks a lot, James. Great job.
Wait, one second.
Is that Angus?
Right here.
Hang on.
We're good, Connie. Wait, one more. The flash was down. I'm sorry. Perfect.
Took it.
Did you get it?
There. It's a good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice.
I waited all day for you. I know.
Cover that here for you.
Nice to come back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we take a picture?
Yeah, I got a bunch. If you want, let me know. James, please hold it.
Can I send it to you?
Hey? You get it?
Picture to take it. It's not open.
I don't think you should go.
I'm sorry.
Thank
you very much. Did a great job.
Oh my, that's mine. That's mine. Thank you.
That's
Come on, Andy.
Oh, can I please just see?
Sure, get in there.
Take care, Jim.